good friend David in Girona at 3D Cycling Lab. David, thanks for doing this.
Thank you very much to
really appreciate it. If you're ever in Girona, make sure you stop by. David, you work with UAE and some other. Is it just UAE?
Yeah. Well, UAE and several riders from other teams also.
Okay.
I work.
Yeah, no, I remember you telling me something. You can't say what riders, but sometimes pro riders have to work with their teams. But David is so good that other riders come and see him to make sure that they are taken care of. I just got my bike fit done with our checkup. I mean, we've done a bike fit together before.
Yeah.
When do you think somebody should decide to get a bike fit? Do you think it's before they buy the bike or after they buy the bike?
Well, as you know perfectly, because the first time you come to see me 2 years ago, you came with a huge bike.
Right.
And I think if you never did a bike fitting before and you don't have the experience, maybe it's better to make it before to buy a bike, okay? At least to be sure that the bike you are going to buy is the correct size, correct components and measurements. It's really important to make it. For me, it's really important to make it before, also because nowadays with all the integrated handlebars, all the stuff from the bikes, is really difficult to change later. If you are wrong in a stem or handlebar, it's really expensive. And most of the times the problem comes from the brands. The brands give you a size, but it's really standard because they do not consider to change any component. Then maybe instead of give you the option to go for a longer stem, they make you jump to other size, and many people, they are using a wrong size. That's why for me it's really important to make it before of the.
Okay. And so one of the things that's kind of like trending right now is cyclists with the crank arm length, and it's like 165 versus 170. When do you think it's appropriate for somebody to make that change? And do you think they should be getting a bike fit first before they decide to go through with something like that?
Yeah, for me is the key to make it the bike fit first, because the crank could be because of the saddle height. Depend of the saddle height, you need one crank or another one, and also depend of your limitation. If you have problems in your knees or in your hips, something like this, always will be better a little bit shorter crank. But the important is analyze. For me, I don't trust in change and let's see what happens. I need the numbers, and that's why we have here a machine to analyze the pedal efficiency with longer or shorter cranks. For me, is important to analyze and to know exactly what do you need, because it's not because of the pros they are using that is going to be good for me.
Right. Can a lot of cyclists get like knee pain too? Can that changing your crank length just randomly, can that start to cause issues like that with your knees or something like that?
It could be a problem, or it could be solved changing the crank. But it's important to have the help for someone for the cleats, for the cranks, and for everything, because if not, we can have problems doing by ourselves everything,
right,
because we think that someone is doing.
And to that point, I came in, my cleats were all over the place today.
Yeah.
Really, really bad. Like, why is cleats positioning so important? I guess to your point, you were kind of touching on a little bit, like what issues can it cause? Because I had to change, or you changed my cleat positioning completely today, and I was complaining about some foot pain I had, and it sounded like it was associated with that. So like, what could go wrong? And then when is it appropriate to use like the spacers for the cleats, the cleat lifting?
The spacers is only need if you have a longer leg than another, but the important is if we have the information from a doctor how long is the difference. In that case, you need to use the spacers, okay? And the cleat position is really important because the fits is one of the most important. Even the people, they think that the most important is the saddle. For me, one of the important points like in the saddle, is the feet. Because if we don't have stability in the feet, if we are not comfortable in the feet, we cannot be comfortable in the bike. And it's really important to have the correct position in your cleats first, to push well the pedals, to feel comfortable, to help for example, the knees or the hips to work in the correct position, because if not, it's really easy to have an injury. And you see already that you feel it really strange is the last days because your position was not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for the saddle, like to your point, why is saddling or saddle position so important, and should people be, I guess, playing around with their saddle position, tilting it up or down? I think there's apps now where people can just line up their bike and change the saddle. I see some people who have their saddle slammed all the way forward. Why is it so critical that people get that right and make sure that they get a bike fit? What issues can they avoid if they have their saddle position dialed?
The saddle is the most important point in the bike almost, because it's the main point where you put all your weight. And finally, it's important the saddle position for the saddle height, for the stability, and for how you generate the power. And finally, the most important is saddle height and the seat back or not, and also the tilt. But the tilt also could depend of the kind of the saddle. More flat saddle, more curved saddle. This can affect also in the tilt. And here, it depends of the person. Could be one saddle better for them or not. For example, one person that is really flexible is better one flat saddle, and someone that is not really flexible, one curved saddle could help them. That's why it's not easy to decide the tilt. I mean, and also nowadays we saw many people with the saddle totally in front with a straight seat post. Okay, but in the pros it's different because their positions are more aggressive. Every time we want to be more aero, every time we want to be more like in TT position, we can say. But for the normal people, it comes because of what we said before, that many people, they are using a wrong size, normally it's a big size, and they feel far where they are making the power. That's why they want to go far with the saddle. And also because the understand of the fittings every year we have an evolution, and we are seeing that maybe a little bit far, the people, it feels a little bit comfortable, they are able to make a little bit more power, but not helps to everybody. I mean, we cannot make for everybody that, because it's going to help. Each person is totally different.
Absolutely. And last question, how often do you think somebody should get a bike fit that, let's say like an average recreational cyclist? I probably ride more than the average typical recreational cyclist, but I don't think personally it should just be a one and done bike fit. Like, so how often do you think a cyclist should be going in to make sure that their position on the bike is dialed and no changes have occurred?
Well, of course, for the pros and for the people that is competing, every year is a must. And for me also, for people like you that every day of the year you are riding, I think will be important to make it at least once per year or 1.5. And the person that imagine that go only in the weekends, maybe at least they should make it at least in around 2 to 2.5 years. Of course, if you change the bike, is a must. And also if you have different bikes, is a must to make it in both bikes, because the geometry is different, the saddle, everything is different. But maybe every 2 to 3 years will be important to make it, because also to check how are the materials. Right. Of course, if the saddle is too old or they have some problem in the saddle, and of course, every time that we change the shoes and the cleats, we need to change often also. It's important to check a little bit, at least how they are the cleats. But for me, the bike fitting for the normal people will be every 2 years, 2.5, or something like this. And who is riding more than usual should be every year.
Okay, reasonable. David, thanks for your time. I know you're super busy. Guys, if you are ever in Girona, stop by and get your bike fit, dialed in, but make sure you call ahead of time. David is super busy. Set your appointment. You're on WhatsApp, right? They can reach you on WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, Instagram, they can contact me.
Okay, so I can put your WhatsApp on here.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. I'll see you in the next video.